Hi, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video, which hopefully isn't too long, but it is a wrap up of all the books I read in April. I literally just did the math. I read 3,295 pages in April and 8 books total. That is one less book, 50 pages less than I read last month. So not too bad. Obviously I didn't get to all the book. Well, not obviously, you didn't know that. Unless you watched my May TBR, in which I told you that I only got to 4 out of 8 of the books on my TBR. So I did not get to a lot of the books that I wanted to, but I still read quite a bit. I have a pretty big stack right here. It only looks big because Iron Flame is on the bottom of it. But yeah, we're gonna go through the books I read. I'll tell you my favorite quote from each book. I did that last month, and then I literally forgot to tell you my favorite quote from Powerless, literally the last book on that whole list, and I forgot to tell you my favorite quote from that, so that's really awesome. April wasn't like, I kind of feel bad. I didn't really keep up with my reading journal at the end of April, and I didn't finish the Emily Henry video I wanted to finish by the end of April, and I'm still working on that one. In case you were curious, I'm in the middle of Book Lovers right now. So yeah, it's just been really busy with the end of school, and I had to go to California for a little bit, and then I came back here and it was graduation and lots of things. So without further ado, let's dive into the books I read. I have to remember what order I read it in first. Of course, it's at the very bottom. I started this month off with Bullet Train by Kotaro Isaka? I'm gonna butcher that. I read this in my books versus movie video the second time I did it, and I really did not like this book. I think I ended up giving it a 1.5 stars. This book is about quite a few, it's like 3 separate storylines that follow quite a few different characters, and they all merge together. They all come together on this bullet train that is going through Japan, and a lot of crazy stuff happens. If you've seen the movie, you would kind of know what I'm talking about. I'm not describing this well by any means. If you want to know more, you can go check out that video I mentioned earlier. Yeah, like I said, I really did not like this book. I almost DNF'd, but I pushed through. The ending actually kind of picked up a bit once we got all those different storylines finally starting to mix together. I was getting more interested, and so the end felt a little bit faster paced, and I read through it quicker, which is why I think I finished the book. But these characters were so obnoxious. I strongly disliked almost every single one of them. Like, you can tell I didn't really like this book because I started tabbing and then just stopped halfway through because I was getting really just annoyed with the characters. This also is a second book in a series. I didn't know that going into it, and I'm like curious if that would have helped my reading of this book, if I would have liked it better if I had read the first book. So if you have, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll try and go back and read the first book and see if that changes my opinion about this book. But yeah, this was the first book I read. Didn't start the month off on a strong foot, but then I read Mile High by Liz Tomford. I read it on my Kindle, and that is the first book in, I think, the Windy City series, and that is like a sports romance series, and the first book follows Xander's and Stevie. Stevie is a flight attendant for Xander's hockey team, and he isn't very nice to her the first time they meet, and she kind of bites back with a little bit of attitude, and their relationship kind of goes from there, I guess. It's kind of dislike to lovers, I would say. I know a lot of people have DNF'd this book. I can see why. There is like a lot of fat phobia, but I feel like you have to see that in order to understand Stevie's character and kind of the struggles that she goes through. I know I really ended up enjoying it. There was not a lot, but there were a few really cringy parts, I will admit. Yeah, what? Oh, I don't have a favorite quote from this book, by the way, but let me find my favorite quote from Mile High. I think my favorite quote is, "You don't have to love your body every single day. That's unrealistic to expect, but I'll be here loving it for the days you can't." I don't know. I thought it was cute. I really liked it. I ended up putting the second book in that series on my May TBR. I'm very excited for that. The third book I read was The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. Oh my gosh, when I tell you I think about this book almost constantly right now, it was so cute. This is about Florence, who, does she live in New York City? I don't remember where she lives from. I love how I said I was just thinking about this book constantly and I can't even remember where she's from. Pretty sure it's New York City though. She lives in New York City and she has to fly home unexpectedly because her father passes away, and so she just needs to be there with her family. And one special thing about Florence is that she sees ghosts. Her family runs a mortuary, a funeral home, funeral parlor. Her family runs a funeral parlor, and so she grew up seeing ghosts, and her dad was able to as well, but none of her other siblings or her mom was. When she gets back home, she sees the ghost of her editor, who she had just met previously, like a week before her father passed, and she kind of has to deal with seeing him as a ghost and figure out why he's there so she could help him move on, as well as her father's death. And it was just so sweet and just heartwarming. I really loved the characters. There was a lot of cringy humor in there that I didn't love. Like, the humor just didn't always hit for me, but I really did love the romance in this book, and I thought all the characters were like quirky, but not in a way that was annoying. The only thing I didn't love was the end. I'm pretty sure, like, literally the epilogue. I was loving it until the epilogue, and I thought something was gonna happen, and I fully prepared my brain for it to happen. I was so excited, and then it didn't. I wasn't heartbroken, but I was definitely very frustrated. I feel like my ending of the book felt a lot better than this ending of the book, but I still really, like, that's just such a small thing, so I still really love this book. But yeah, definitely highly recommend this book and The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Definitely becoming one of those like new favorite authors for me. I think about the characters from this book and from The 7-Year Slip almost constantly, and I end up comparing these books to the current romance books I'm reading all the time. So my favorite quote from this one is actually a little bit of a longer one. Ghost stories were just love stories about here and then and now and when, about pockets of happiness and moments that resonated in places long after their era. They were stories that taught you that love was never a matter of time, but a matter of timing. If you know the end of that quote, that love is not a matter of time, but timing. If you know that quote, you will also know that it is in The 7-Year Slip. And I really liked that. I guess I can't call it a callback because this came out before The 7-Year Slip, but I really did enjoy seeing that in there. I was like, oh my gosh. So I ended up really liking that one. And then the next set of books I read was for my continuing book series video. And the first book I read for that was Michael Vey, Battle of the Ampere. This is by Richard Paul Evans. This belongs to a young adult sci-fi series called, I'm pretty sure it's called like just Michael Vey, in which the main character, the title character, Michael Vey, has these electric powers, and in the first book he finds out that there are other kids like him who have these powers. Like I said earlier, if you want to know more, you can definitely check out that video. But I really like this series, and I think all the books are super fast paced and easy to get through. I think I gave this book 4 stars. I don't think I liked it as much as the first book, but I think I liked it better than book 2. There was just one character in this book that ruined it for me. I talked about it in my video. I already went on a huge long rant about it to almost anyone who would listen. I just was so annoyed with this character, but I'm curious to see if that character gets better later in the series. So I will definitely obviously be continuing on this series. I'm already 3 books in. Although there are 9 books, it's a very long series. But I think my favorite quote from here is, "Fate does not bend for us, we must bend to it." Anyways, it was a very good book. The next book I read for that video was Heartless by Elsie Silver. This is the second book in the Chestnut Spring series, which is basically interconnected cowboy romances. However, I think the third book is kind of a sports romance. I think the main character is a hockey player. Love this series. This book follows Willa and Cade. Cade is a single father, and Willa ends up going to babysit his 5-year-old son, Luke. And it was absolutely so sweet and so adorable. I can see why a lot of people say this is their favorite book in the series. I ended up really loving it. I also quickly found one of my new favorite tropes, which is when one of the main characters is sick and the other one has to take care of them. I think the only thing I didn't love about this book was the age gap was kind of big, like too big for me. I still gave this like 5 stars because the next book I read was this massive brick. I read Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. This is the second book in the Empyrean series. This series basically is a romance fantasy romantasy that follows Violet, who goes into a war college to become a dragon rider. And I feel like that's all you really need to know going into this book. I've tried so many times to summarize this book, and I just cannot do, like, not just this book, but this series, and I have such a hard time. But definitely highly recommend it. It was so good. The first book, I think I gave that one 4.5 stars, and I'm giving this one 4 stars. Other than the fact that it was like a little bit too long for my liking, there was just some relationship drama between the two main characters, the romance between the two of them, that I thought was really overplayed, overdone, was very exaggerated over the course of the book, and I really would have just loved if that would have wrapped up a little bit quicker. But the plot twists at the end of this book, oh my god, my mind blown. The last 5 pages ruined me. I don't know if I'll be able to read the next book without absolutely sobbing. But I don't think I can wait 8 books. I don't think I can wait 8 months for this next book to come out. I am impatiently waiting, so if Rebecca Yarros could get on that, that'd be really awesome. My favorite quote was, "The first year is when some of us lose our lives. The second year is when the rest of us lose our humanity." And I feel like that really summarizes very perfectly what the first book felt like compared to the second book, for sure. The little side note, the dragons in these books are so funny. I love them. Moving on. The next 2 books I read are for the Emily Henry video, so I'm not gonna get into too much about them because I'm, you know, obviously I want you to go watch the other video, but it's not gonna be out yet. I don't even know when I'm gonna get it out because this month is not going according to my scheduling plan that I had worked out, which is fine. It's not a big deal. I am going in the chronological order in which she published. So I started with Beach Read, and this is about January, who, after the death of her father, she goes to this lake house that he left her. When she gets there, she finds out that her next door neighbor is her college rival, Augustus Everett, and they are both writers. Through the course of their interactions in this book, they make a kind of like a deal in which they have to write in each other's respective genres. So January writes mostly romance, so Gus would have to write the romance, and then January would have to write the kind of more dark literary fiction because that's what Gus mainly writes. And yeah, it's just kind of about them writing their books together and teaching each other kind of the tropes and the themes of each book and how to write it. I really ended up liking this one. I don't know if you can tell by the hundreds of tabs I have in here, but it was so good. You will get to know more about my thoughts in that video once I finally get it out. Should I do favorite quote? I'll do favorite quote. This one's hard to choose because there's quite a few, but I think my favorite is, "You have to keep falling in love with every new version of each other, and it's the best feeling in the whole world." I just think that's really sweet. And then the last book I read this month was People We Meet on Vacation, and this is about Poppy and Alex, who became really close friends in college, and every summer they would go on these little summer vacations together until one year something big happens between the two that causes them not to talk for 2 years. In the present timeline, Poppy finds herself kind of struggling with the motivation to get her work done, and so she asks Alex to go on one more summer vacation together, and miraculously he agrees. This book follows both the present timeline in which they go on this new current vacation together, but also goes back in time to each of their previous vacations and kind of builds up to this big problem that came between them that caused them not to talk. I did not like this one as much as Beach Read. It was still quite fun, I will say. I really loved the vacation vibes. I haven't even journaled this one yet. That's how far behind I am. So I don't really know what my favorite quote was, but I'll just read you the first 2 lines, 3 lines? First 2 sentences. "On vacation, you can be anyone you want. Like a good book or an incredible outfit, being on vacation transports you into another version of yourself." I definitely have noticed a common theme among Emily Henry books, that it's very summer vibes. So this definitely helped get me into the summer mood, especially with me just ending my classes for the year and, you know, going through graduation and going on vacations and stuff. I'm very much enjoying the Emily Henry vibe I've been getting. So yeah, those were all the books I read this month. Definitely had a lot of really highly rated books other than Bullet Train, which is really cool. I don't think I've had a month this good in a while. Normally I have a lot of middle of the road ones, but I didn't. I had a lot of really great books, and I think that's because I had a feeling I would like Emily Henry quite a bit, and then I also continued series that I was really excited about, so I just went into this knowing that I'd like these books a lot. That being said, I did not finish my full TBR, which kind of sucked, but I knew that going into the month. I knew I had too much planned. This month I'm really hoping to get through my whole TBR, and I have a pretty exciting video planned, if I do say so myself. Hopefully I can actually get through that one and get through the Emily Henry one and get both of those out to you before the month ends. That is my priority goal now that I don't have classes anymore. But yeah, let me know what books you read in April. I keep wanting to say March. Anyways, let me know what books you read in April. What was your favorite book? And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!